I'm neutral. I love quant. I love qual. I'm Christopher Switzerland Haas, and we're going to solve today the problem of quant versus qual. At the end of this, we shall know which is better, quant or qual. So I'd like to hear it for your team. If you're quant, if you're qual, if you're hiding in the back, we can be loud today. Back to the corner, sir. So excited. So welcome. If you're ready for the ultimate SmackDown. By the hallowed balding pate of Jared Spool, I'm tired of talking about quant versus qual. Aren't you? By the hoary chi-squares of Jacob Nielsen, does the lack of quantitative precision make you mad in UX? We have for you today a unique, one-of-a-kind event. I will be refereeing tonight's prodigious promulgation of preposterous, pompous, passionate, posterific, pugilistic excess. But before we get started, by Fitt's Law and the power invested in me, by me, I must warn you, for those of you who are new to the field, if your usability testing N is 1 or less, this may be too much for you. I may need you to look away. I may need you to step outside. If the SmackDown is a little much for you, this is not for the faint of heart. The hyperbole in use today will be intense. So if you're not up to witnessing it, I would not judge you if you slipped out the back, if you slipped out the front. We will not judge you much. So go, this is your moment, I'm looking away. If you're still here, stay. If you go weak in the knees in the presence of quantifiable power, if the sight of unsorted data makes you blind with rage, if you've ever wolf whistled at a well-formed ascent form walking by, you are in the right place today. We're going to see qual versus quant go head-to-head, and I promise you, there will be no getting a Nova hit. Your children's grandchildren will not know anything about this. But as long as your short-term memory lasts, you will. So, who will yell for quants today? Quantitative. Who will yell for qualitative? Nice. So, let's get ready to smack down! Our sound effects are being a little off. There we go. All right. Our first champion of the day. Against all axioms of probability, he emerged fully formed from his mother's womb with a protractor in one hand and graph paper in the other. Don't ask how she's doing. Marvel at his neurological domination. Some say he's cruel, calculating, spends too much time in the wrong kinds of error bars. His quantitative prowess is so far beyond the mean. Some say his heart never recovered, and his cold, cold calculus makes him the exception to the rule. Put your hands together for one half of the dangerous, dastardly, dominating duo of data. Let's hear it for Mike, Mr. Confidence Interval Frank! Entering the defender's corner tonight is a true force of nature. Her crippling claws of compassion are the dependent variable in the equation of qualitative success. Her moderating language is so natural, Kitty Riddick built a shrine to her in her closet. She speaks for the users, and her title is ecological correlation, manages to protect the group and the individual. Her arguments are so smooth, her adherents need to be deprogrammed. In the face of derision, she will not back down. She will not stop. She is here to protect protect the people until her clients here destroy other people. All people. She is one half of Team Qual, and she grabs them majority by the throat. To make sure she's here too. She's gonna walk on all over you. Next defender. There's a chill in the air as he calculates the exact degree of your despair with surgical precision. He can turn a cluster sample into Custer's last stand. He has a p-value so extreme, Ralph Mahler found a study on it, and he was never the same! He thinks your sample size is stupid. The game in his theory, the heteroscedasticity in his histogram, dendritic data in the hands of one, mean squared error. What's your breakdown point, people? It's Tom, Mr. T-Test, tell us! Never put people in masks who wear glasses. She's a ray of redemptive sunshine in the big data world. Her jet may be invisible, but her heart is on display. They say she was formed from the clay tablets of the very first notes grid by Hera herself. Defender of all who are caught in the margin of error. Wielder of the lasso of tell it like it is, brother. She's the fierce, fearless half of the Qualitative intelligence. She will tell you a story you'll never forget. Fresh from the shores of Themis cares about all of you. There's Elizabeth, woman of wonder, Rosensweig. Team Qualitative, are you ready for the ultimate SmackDown?
Bring it on! Bring it on!
Anything to say to these fine people?
Greetings! Hold your arm.
She's so kind. Checks to see if her mic is on.
Greetings, my fellow Bostonians. I.O. You get to decide what kind of researcher you are going to be. You are good people with good hearts. I am loyal to you humans, to you people, all of you. Numbers do not define you. They are primitive. What are you loyal to? Huh?
Team Quantitative, do you have anything to say before the SmackDown?
Mr. T-Test just has one thing to say. I pity the fool who don't do quant.
All right, here's the deal, right? Usability, schmoozability. How about utility? Are people gonna use your product? You need numbers! You need sample!
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Ladies and you want to feel free?
The lasso of truth will get you all. I see a lot of you out there who wonder with curiosity. And you know, if we don't put all the data together holistically, we might as well have our head in the sand.
Oh.
She speaks the truth.
Are the challengers ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Please ascend the stage.
Okay.
Let us get this SmackDown underway. Is there anything you need before we get started?
Oh, yes, there is. Please come up here. Find my pockets. So, Mr. T-Test can't see a damn thing without his glasses.
All right, there are two types of data. Quantitative, that which can be measured, and qualitative data, which is about describing human behavior, realities, and defying measurement. For eons, we have listened to well-intentioned practitioners prattle on about quant is so awesome. No, qual is much better. And today we settle the debate once and for all. If the fighters are ready, I shall toss a coin. I shall find a coin. I shall toss a coin. All right. I've tossed the coin, and Qual will now enter the ring first. Qualitative team, please tell us why your method is best.
We all know that qual anchors us in the human story, and it gives inspiration to everybody in the organization. We need that so badly when all you're faced with is numbers.
Quant is about getting statistical significance. Boy, this is interesting. Okay, stay here. Sorry.
Put the mask back on, team.
Mask back on. Okay. No, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Qual provides context for everything.
You hear that?
Yeah.
Oh, but quant lets you actually measure how usable something actually is.
Nah. Qual provides depth of insight into how humans are described, their behaviors, their attitudes, their emotions. What do you know about that?
Well, speaking of humans, quant lets you get good representation of your whole range of users, even ones that might be typically underrepresented.
Body blow, his argument is amazing.
Okay, wait, it's time.
Tag in, tag in. A new challenger appears.
Qual puts the big picture together, all the data together, to find the truth.
Do you agree?
Oh.
Let's hear it. You disagree. Let's hear it.
I need some help here. I need some help. Oh, there you go.
Mr. Confidence Interval.
All right, you may have the big picture, but with a sample size of 5, you're gonna have a confidence interval as tall as this building! What do you really know?
What you don't know is the whole story. If you just look at the numbers, you don't know the person. You can't answer who, or why, or what, or how.
No, you're still on your own.
Yeah, you're
Challenger refuses the tag in.
There's plenty of ways to get the why with quant too. Unmoderated usability testing can ask the why, and you can get precision in your sample, and your precision in your means. You want a mean with a low confidence interval. You don't want a huge one. What does that tell you?
It gives me no confidence if you don't talk to people.
Ladies and gentlemen, the lasso of truth. Is there a comeback from Team Quant? Team Quant is on the ropes. Let's hear it for Team Quant. Can they come back? Come on.
Okay, no, I got it.
Team Quant continues the round.
Okay.
All right, for our next question. Our next round will be a bit of a lifeline round. So, for your next challenger, audience member Jill Thackeray of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, throws down a gauntlet. I will read the words. The company I work for, let's call it Schmidelity. You all know Schmidelity, right?
Okay. You gonna read the rest of it?
I will, but do you know Schmidelity?
I don't know anything about this company. I'm gonna make some guesses, so go ahead.
So, Schmidelity needs to redesign its website. Next quarter, I will have a 1-hour meeting to convince my CEO to greenlight a web design. What will make my case better? Qualitative data or quantitative data?
Okay. So like I said, I don't know anything about Schmidelli, but I'm guessing they've got a website that gets lots of visitors a day, maybe even 1 million visitors a day, like some website that I happen to know. How can you make any decisions about a new design based upon 6 or 8 users for a site that gets like 1 million users a day? So I think we've got to go with one. Your CEO is going to want to hear numbers. You're going to want to test alternatives, and you're going to want to know for sure which one is actually best.
But how do you know the person? Like you just said, until you start talking to them, why don't you start with the question? What are you measuring? Where do you want to go? What answers are you looking for? Not just little numbers to see who's coming from what website.
Little numbers are
What
big numbers.
person is coming to your website? Who and why? How about that?
How will they know that you need glasses?
Exactly.
How will they find
I wouldn't know if I need glasses, that's what you said.
Just from your surveys.
Yes, from my surveys. Here, Mr. Confidence Interval, you take it from here.
Here's the deal, all right? You guys can go into a frickin' lab with 5 people, and you can have 3 of them being outliers, right? We've all been there. So then you got a sample size of 2. Then you base everything on 2 frickin' people!
Lasso of Truth says you don't just look at 5 and leave it at that. Maybe, yes, you have a small sample size, but that's not all qual is. You're connecting the dots. You're using multi.
What's your typical sample size?
Triangulating!
What's your sample size? Go ahead!
He does not understand qualitative research because he talks about usability testing where you need only 5 people. We talk about much greater than that. So we're not always talking about 5. We have done studies with hundreds of people. It takes a little bit more time but you get the depth that you need.
Looks like Mr. Confidence Interval's getting convinced. Is he switching sides?
Let's be realistic, all right? 90% of the people in this room go into a lab and they test 5 people. They use the right method, whatever. It's not enough!
Lasso of Truth, you don't know that. 95% of the people in this room, you don't know that.
Is he right?
Looking good either.
Is he right? Boo,
Okay.
yes. Boo, he's right.
And guess what? Many
Am I
good
right?
products fail. Let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
Wait, what I missed that?
Products that fail.
Let's talk about the fact that many of your products fail.
Oh, not my products. Okay, anything else on this case?
We have more questions.
We have more questions. Mr. Switzerland needs his mic back, please. Thank you. Y'all having a good time? Excellent. Do you feel like we're getting anywhere on this? Yay, boo.
Yay!
So, our next question comes from Sunny Zoo of Jamaica Plain. It has long been said that the ideal project balances cost, time, and quality. Which approach, quant or qual, is best for achieving this balance?
Why start with that as the question? Why don't we start with cost, quality, time? What are the issues? What are the questions? Triangulate the answers to those, and then you can find a solution to pick what method. Why start with whether it should be little numbers or big numbers?
Yeah. So lots of people seem to think that quant is expensive and slow. And time, it's not. It can be fast. I've done studies with 1,000 people overnight.
Overnight, dudes! Overnight! Overnight! Over frickin' night!
What have you gotten from it? Right.
Lots of numbers.
Exactly. What does it tell you?
It tells me a lot.
Does it answer the question of who or why?
It does tell me who. It does tell me why, depending upon the questions that I'm asking. Right? Yeah. Watch out with that lasso of truth.
The truth. That's what we got here, the truth.
Okay, so the thing is, is with quant, you can just be confident in your results, right? Right?
But if
Like
you
it
don't
says.
know what you're looking for,
Well, I know, you gotta know
you
what you're
might
looking
not
for.
be confident about anything.
I'd be confident about what I was looking for.
Confidence comes from knowing the truth, connecting the dots, and asking the bigger questions.
Okay, you say so.
I do. I do.
Bigger question on that one?
You can still ask these big frickin' questions with big frickin'
Numbers. There's no reason you can't. They do unmoderated tests all the time. Ask these questions, we probe, we do plenty of probing. And we get bigger numbers.
How do you
We don't do that kind of probing, all right? Mr. T, keep your head out of the gutter.
You are not telling the truth.
I'm telling the truth.
How do you know if you're not?
Unmoderated testing has come a long frickin' way. You can do all kinds of this. There's all kinds of methodology. You can do screenshot click tests. You can do think out loud tests. You can do tree tests. You can do card sorts. You can do forced rankings.
What was left?
But what
Forced ranking. You wanna prioritize your feature set before you go to market? You do a forced ranking with a sample size of 400, and then you take it to your CEO.
And how-
You don't go to your CEO with a sample size of 5 and say, 2 people like the feature? What are you out of your mind? Are you out of your freaking mind?
Calm down, Mr. Confidence Interval.
Give us something other than this tiny sample size.
Okay.
That's not, we're talking about several things, putting them together.
Okay.
When you're doing the testing, how do you actually keep
quiet when
track
she's talking.
of, how do you keep track of when Tom has gone to look for his glasses and he cannot find them and the test is still going on and those are the numbers that you're looking at?
And did you notice he has his glasses on? I don't know if you can see that.
How do you keep track of that? Because people step away and come back and do things because that is life. We are humans, we are unpredictable. We cannot be figured out right away just because of the number that the machine tells us. So we have to have more insight into that context.
This is what I'm trying to tell you. With all due respect. All right? All right. We've got a little bit of a rapprochement here. A little bit of a détente. You know what that is? We got a little frickin' détente. I feel it coming
The
on.
lasso of truth.
I feel it coming on.
That's right. You're coming on our side.
You guys are saying we don't understand qual.
No, no.
Mr. T, do they understand quant?
No.
Thank you.
Quant
Okay,
is
let's
a
move on.
tool. It's a tool.
Let's move on. Let's move on. We're not gonna solve that.
Okay. I got a little too into
I've
character.
never seen wrestlers punch in the fight right in the middle. That seems to me like they were getting to you. You guys are starting to get a little convinced here.
Yeah.
What I'd love to hear from Team Qual is you talked about the bigger pictures, the bigger issues. What are the bigger issues?
Who's the person? What are they trying to do? What are they dealing with? Oh, what's their cognitive load? What's going on with them? What tasks? The whole story.
When we describe people, we describe them with behaviors and with aptitudes, with attitudes and emotions. Behaviors and aptitudes are easy to see, but attitudes and emotions, they're much harder to actually understand. We need to get evidence of them in order to bring it back and study it.
The truth is complicated, but it's worth doing the extra work.
All right, you make a good point, all right? But I still think it's already indisputable. Huh?
Watch out there.
I'm good.
I know it's hard to see on that thing.
I'm good.
And we don't have.
I don't know how many times you walked into a CEO's office, gave him the results of your study. If you go in there with 5, he's gonna laugh you out of the office. I'm just saying.
He is stuck on
Really stuck on that little number 5.
Well, that's the typical number, come
But
on.
that's not
He's a bit
all
loser.
That's not all it is.
It's worth noting that when Mr. Confidence Interval gets more confident, he gets smaller.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
I like that.
We won't fight for those.
Yeah, you gotta get at the truth. You gotta learn about your users. You gotta learn about those human beings. I agree. But there's lots of different ways of learning about them. You can learn about them in person. You can learn about them by talking to them. You can also learn about them from surveys, from online studies. And in those, you can potentially get representation, like I said before, from some of those people you may not easily be able to get to. Like, where's your person, I'm just picking this out of the air, your 66-year-old person whose vision's not quite as good as it used to be, whatever. And you just, Quant allows you to get some of that representation from that much broader base of users.
I would agree with that.
Absolutely.
Oh.
It's a tool in the toolbox.
Okay.
Did I hear agreement?
Maybe.
I just said it's a tool. We agree it's a tool.
wait.
Wait, did you follow the
We're gonna do these nice ones. Okay, let's do that.
People are reading ahead of the script, I tell you. All right, our last question from the audience here comes from Flower Child of the People's Republic of Cambridge. I think it would be nice if you each said something nice about the other team's special. Each team will have a minute, 30 seconds. I get bored. What is Quant good for, Team Qual?
I think his necklace is dated by Daniel.
It's certainly making my eyes vibrate.
You can't triangulate data without having some numbers. You have to have some numbers, and otherwise you can't triangulate. So Quant has its place.
Quant has a place, and it actually belongs after Quant. Because once we figured out the details, after, I think it is very good. It could be used before for something, but it is much more valuable after.
Okay, you guys done? Okay. So Qual, is all touchy-feely. If that's your thing, that's good, right? It's not. Yeah, okay, human. I agree. Great. It's nice and subjective. It does. I will admit, it does let you interact with actual human beings. Okay. Qual does make it easier to follow up on topics that maybe you didn't even think of at the very beginning. So can Mr. Confidence Interval say anything nice about Qual?
Well, I'll give you this, all right? I'll give you this. Qual will tell you the why. Okay? I'll give you that. So you do, this is, what you do. You do a freaking large-scale study, and then you go into the lab, and you find out why. But then when you find out why, you've only found out why from okay, 7 years.
You're supposed to say something.
Just saying. I mean, this number 5's been,
All right, look at number 5. Done with
I
it.
wish Bob Bursey was here to talk about 5.
Yeah, we got plenty to say.
Anyway, so even when you figure out the why, right, you still should really make sure that the why that you found out in the qualitative test is really quantifiable at a number that's realistic. So you can probe on those things, you can probe on those why answers.
Say something nice.
You want to be
I'm saying something nice. I'm freaking saying something nice.
Let me have that.
Actually, I believe you
Yes.
are agreeing.
You believe?
You are agreeing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Because
okay.
he just said what I said.
Are they agreeing?
Yes.
Are they agreeing?
The lasso of truth brings us together. Mr. Q.
Okay, I'm going to let the audience take a few questions
Yes,
here.
please, ask us
I
questions.
see one right down there.
All right, we have some questions from people who are not at all planted in the audience.
Really, I'm gonna walk in.
Okay.
Okay.
So someone brought up a very important distinction that I think would be helpful if you answered. How do you define what quant is? How do you define what qual is? Because I'm willing to bet if you polled this room, and that would be a combination of both, you would get varying answers from different people. So what is the framework that you're presenting us?
Fall on target.
Find your term.
So,
Boy,
yes.
hey, tough crowd.
Mr. Dudas needs his microphone back.
Qualitative research is focused on really trying to understand the human in terms of their context, in terms of the dynamic that they do their work with, the interactions, workarounds, solutions. You need to actually understand what they do naturally on a day-to-day basis. We're also looking for that evidence of analogous experience. If we look at something like trying to learn how somebody invests, if we look at how they invest, it's not enough to just go and ask them, hey, how do you invest? It's really about decision making. If you look at the behavior we're studying is decision making, and we don't want to just see it for that one pointed example. We need lots of evidence of how they tend to make decisions. They need to be believable and understandable to be able to apply it forward then to whatever product we're working on. So qualitative research allows us to go a lot of times in context, but it need not be. But it allows us to get that sense of evidence that we need from people so that it's very holistic in nature in what we're receiving back.
You want to get anything or?
Just adding that it allows us to understand the story of the person. So it gives us the persona and the use case of the person, and we can get into their mental model, we can understand why they're making their decisions, and we can look at the whole big picture. She pretty much covered this.
Okay, well, I mean, to me, for quant, in many cases, you're trying to answer some of the same kinds of questions that Qual is trying to answer, except you have a narrower range of things that you are trying to answer. You can't go down all those random paths that you potentially can with Qual. And of course, one of the key characteristics of quant is that it is typically bigger numbers. Now, one of my esteemed opponents here had told me earlier about a Qual study that she did with how many people?
It was 91 for that.
So almost 100 people in a Qual study. Now that to me is not very common, but it obviously can be done. And to me, that's actually obviously that's becoming a quant type of thing also at that point. Not saying it's not Qual, but it's also becoming quant. But quant, definitely one of the key characteristics is bigger numbers, that you can calculate statistics, you can look at means, you can look at confidence intervals, and so on. And it's a lot of different methods. It's online studies, like unmoderated online studies, maybe online card sorting studies, online surveys. Lots of different methods. Anything to add, Mr. Confidence Interval?
No, very well said. I'll go out of character for a minute.
That's what I was doing too.
So all of those things are true, and I think one of the distinctions, I've been in the field for 20 years, even though I haven't worn a costume for 20 years. There's a real lot of confusion between utility and usability. I see these terms interchangeably used all the time. And I think we've had lots of progress in usability over the past 20 years because of organizations like this. But when people are going to market, they want to know if products will be used. They are sinking a lot of money into development, and they want to know if people will use them, not if they're just usable. And if you're trying to determine, as I am on a daily basis with large corporations, if people will use something, you simply need numbers. So that's my addition.
Another question from the audience?
Another question. Oh, you down there.
All right.
Did you guys hear me?
No.
Thank you. So I'll just yell.
Yay!
So I don't want to point this just at quant because I appreciate both sides, but I know that since my beginning of my journey in UX, storytelling has been such a component that's been emphasized. So for the quant guys, while I have these experts here, how do you incorporate quantitative data into storytelling? Because with qualitative, it's really easy to just tell the story of a user you interview. But with quantitative data, how do you do that?
Yes, Lasso.
Yeah,
Excellent
yeah.
question.
It is a great question, and it is something that I think I've faced a lot in the quant studies that I've done. And honestly, the way to do it, because story is so critical in what you're, like if you're reporting out. And yeah, a lot of senior managers and project managers over will listen to numbers. They will, pay attention to that, but they really pay more attention to that in the context of a story. who are the users that we're talking about here? What are some characteristics of them? And honestly, the approach that I've commonly taken is actually to do some qual work as well, to then say, okay, now here's a theme that we saw in our quantitative data, and now here's where we followed up with that in a qual study, and here's an actual photo of one of these people, making it real for the, for the person that we're speaking to, and then helping to tell this, using qual to help tell the story that we were. Yeah.
We can
You
also
wanna add?
actually.
And I also want to point out the esteemed Mr. Steve Mulder there, who wrote one of the great books on persona development, and he's a big fan of doing K-means analysis to help with that kind of persona development.
I would add to that actually that with the mics.
Oh,
Yeah, we have mics, sorry. With the project that I was talking about, with the larger sample size that we're looking at, actually it wasn't just on a project, but once we actually uncovered a lot of like stories, so the personas is not just one story that actually drives the persona, and we're looking at a lot of similar stories, and those similarities come together. When we actually looked at those stories, we did a quant session right after that to understand how realistic those stories were to people, how much do people resonate with them. So this is me in my class while I was here in the self-selection survey. So basically we did that, and that was a great way to just amp up the story that was being presented in the persona. So that was one way to do it.
And actually, we do need both, because to tell the story, we do need the numbers, especially when we're talking to CEOs and people who are watching the budgets. So we do actually need both.
Another question from the audience. We'll try this box one more time.
The gentleman with the soundboard assures me it's working.
Hi. So I run products for enterprise applications in my company. And as having worked in products, I find myself often in between the designery sort of storyboarding feeling to people and the business bottom line, give me a table and tell me if it's going to make us $1 million people. And what I found has been really effective is to anchor the contributions of these different types of teams, whether it's data science, quantitative researchers with, more kind of UX, to anchor it in purpose as to what the company is trying to do. So my question is, if you were to describe the role of qualitative research versus quantitative research, and I think one of you already did, but in relation to delivering value to customers, which is ultimately what we're all here for, what would that sound like from a quantitative versus qualitative perspective?
I would start by looking at the business goals of the company, and then I would triangulate whatever data I could to answer those, issues, right? You're laughing, is that what you're hoping? So, the idea is we also need to meet the business goals, and otherwise we won't be successful, and we can't sell to the companies. They're not going to be able to find out we're valuable. So if we look at the business goals and the user goals, and then start to see what tools we need to answer those questions, we've got a huge toolbox. So we pick the ones that we want. It's not always qual versus quant, it's what's the questions, what's the goals, and then match the tools to the goals. So often it's both, it really is, but the business goals make all the difference.
In your situation as well, it's really interesting because that word value is so abused. So the first thing I would actually do is align on what value means, right? Internally, what does value mean, and externally. So you cannot go up to somebody and say, tell me what you think value means. Because they'll just look at you and go, something helpful. And it's very hard. You can't quantify those things. You have to qualify them with experience and context. So you need to make sure that both sides have a common understanding of what that word is, deconstruct those weird terms that mean nothing to any of us, really, and then proceed forward with a call to actually sort of explore that a little bit more, reveal that. That's when you actually have to put anything on, because that kind of stuff is very abstract. And people struggle with it all the time. So what do? We just let go of the abstract because it's tough. We should not throw in the towel that easily. We have to fight for that because guess what? We are all abstract. We're all very ambiguous. We do things with absolutely no reason, but we have to bring some level of meaning to that and embrace that as opposed to check it out and just say, let's just not be involved.
So, as far as providing value to customers, I think if we all look back at the history of software and software sales specifically since the advent of software, Everything is built on the next release of the product because we need to renew the contract with the customer, we need to sell, we need to sell, we need to sell, and that means all of our software is loaded with useless features. I mean, you think about Word, you use 5% of it, Excel, you use like 2% of it. All of these products are loaded with features that weren't vetted. So what I do with my work at large sample sizes is we put features in front of the target audience and normally get them to force rank them in order of importance to them, to the target user that we have specifically found. It's not just the Gen Pop survey, it's the people, for example, in finance or medicine. We say, what are the features that you want? And then we come back and invariably, about half of them are thrown out and they were ready to go into production with them. But we threw them out based on empirical data. So I think in that way, we are providing value.
I forgot what the question was, but I'm gonna add a question. I think this is vaguely related to the question. and that is that benchmarking is also really critical. And whatever you're working on, whether it's enterprise stuff or whether it's your customer-facing website, that I know in Schmidelli, where I used to work, we used to do annual benchmarking to see, look, are we really improving our products, our websites? And I think that's something that a lot of people in the company can get around and can listen to and then can see the value of it. We really need to wrap up, don't we?
No, we're good. We're about another 15.
Oh, more questions from you?
More questions. Somebody in the back. Anybody in the back?
No, we don't.
1 minute, Chris.
Oh, 1 minute left? Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Then I apologize. I was on. So, let me hear.
No, Chris, there's somebody who has a question.
Well, let me hear it. Ready? Yeah. All right. Yeah. Nice catch. Applause, please.
Do you think that talking about the ROI and UX undermines our ability to talk about other kinds of value, especially if doing something in UX is important for other reasons, but it costs money and doesn't have a positive financial ROI?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead.
There's a second aspect of ROI. So ROI in qualitative research sometimes actually is the obvious, which is that you're connecting with people and understanding that sense of relationship and getting questions answered. But the other aspect that's actually not investigated that myself and my colleagues always talk about is that it actually inspires people internally if they can anchor their designs on a human story. So it actually brings people together, and that happiness quotient is not something we think about often, but it's actually incredibly powerful, and we use that as a mechanism for ROI.
Yeah. It's funny. I worked at Schmidelli for almost 23 years. Financial related company. And in that 23 years, I was never asked to calculate an ROI for the UX usability type work that we were doing, which is pretty surprising for a financial company. The reason, interestingly, the reason that I was not ever asked is because we were able to demonstrate with essentially qualitative research, lab studies, we were able to show, here's your real customers. Here's what they're struggling with in whatever context. And it was those stories like that just made it so obvious to our senior managers that we didn't have to calculate an ROI. So, yes, the numbers, it would also have been helped to back it up, but anyway.
So, can I just
One last thought? Okay.
One last thought. When I was at Kodak, I thought about that, and we looked at, customer calls for customer support, and we could show some ROI. But at the end of the day, it was about the whole picture. And I think the one point that, in case is lost, we want to make, this conversation doesn't need to keep on. We have solved it. We need both. We need both. That'll solve some of the questions you asked about the ROI. And we don't want to keep having this conversation.
So I'm tired of listening to all of you. So what I'm going to do is ask Mr. Chief to hold the mic for just a moment. While I don this impartial cape that my mom made, so that we will solve this issue once and for all. There we go. So by the power invested in me by Quant and Qual, I think if all of you will take the lasso of truth and hold it, I think we've determined that the answer, once and for all, to Qual versus Quant is both. And you are all